What is going on, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. I have Eric from Nine Panel Group with me. Eric, how's it going, man?
Hey, going fantastic, man. I can't wait to talk about Little Bird.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Little Bird, it's a book that we are very, very excited for, again, because we have Precious Metal coming out from essentially the same creative team. We're only on two issues of Precious Metal at the time of this recording, but it's like got, book of the year talk surrounding it, especially within our camp here. But it's just such a spectacular read that we were inspired to go back and check out Little Bird yet again. And we thought we'd go ahead and collaborate on this one and break it down for you guys. So let's get into it real quick. We have Darcy Van Poelgeest on here, Ian Bertram, Matt Hollingsworth, Aditya Bidikar, and Ben Didier as the editor for this book. Now, Eric, when this was coming out, were you picking it up in single issues, or did you read it in a collected edition?
So I was picking this up in single issues here. I had no exposure to the writer on this, Van Poelgeest, but
Mhm.
Ian Bertram's artwork was just like captivating enough to where when you see his artwork on the stands, it's kind of something that it draws you in. You have to pick it up and see what it's all about, and that was the hook that
Yeah.
got me.
Yeah. Was he doing? I don't think he was doing a whole lot back then either.
A
Ian
couple
Bertram.
books, yeah,
Yeah.
here and there, but like this was the one that really I feel like put him on the map and got him
Yeah.
the interest of a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. And I know Darcy had some credits in like the directing. He did some short films. He's done some other things. And this is, I was watching some interviews earlier to prepare for this. And, Little Bird is kind of like the pinnacle story that he's telling right now. Precious Metal being a prequel, 35 years set in the past of Little Bird. And we see some connections there, some connective tissue that maybe we can get into with Precious Metal when we do that breakdown eventually. But there's also a third story that he hinted at as well that we don't quite know the premise of. And he said it would be years before we even see that. And, these stories like this take a long time to put together, right? So I think this book right here had maybe 10 years of build up going into it before it was finally published. So that was pretty interesting to see, how it all kind of came together eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other interesting things too is that Darcy, from what I had gathered on this, had actually written this with the intention of it being, whether it be a full-length feature film or a short film at the
Mm,
very least. And it was one of those things where the scope and the scale of everything that was happening, like that he realized that there's no way that this was going to be feasible to make into a movie. So he went into the medium where anything is possible, which is comics. And I kind of love
comics,
that.
man. Absolutely. He wanted to tell us an epic sci-fi fantasy, right? And that's exactly what we get
Yep.
inside of here. So, opening pages, we're gonna run through some of the themes and some of the story beats here, introduce you to some of these characters, and just kind of give you our thoughts as we go through. But I mean, right off the bat, opening page over here, we have this more indigenous, tribe of people, right? Like, there's obviously some themes going on right here. We are very close to nature. We're using animal skins. We have more primitive weapons. Although there's little bits of technology in here, it's hard to place like a timeline in our own world for when this might happen because it's kind of like Star Wars. Some things seem really primitive and some things seem overly advanced, right, for that culture. And we'll break into that a little bit more. But right off the bat, you get this sense of like these natives that are preparing for some kind of a battle, right? This like oppressive religious cult is coming over to kind of take them out. And we're featuring Little Bird's mom over here.
Yeah, it's one of the many allegories that we're gonna see here, and this is like very much akin to the Native Americans, for lack of a better term. But I love it's like the people of the land versus the people of technology and historical juxtaposition. Really fantastic stuff early on in this to set the stage.
Yeah, right. And we have this, trope right here where maybe we have a younger warrior, daughter of the, chief or whatever, being basically hidden, right? Because there's this war coming and we need to pass on this technology or this knowledge, right? Our tribe. We got to pass our culture down. So we're going to hide some of our people, right? We're going to apply give them a message of sorts to just in case as like a last case or a last ditch effort to save humanity, to save their culture. And we see that in here, that Little Bird is actually stowed away in preparation for this battle, which we have this dramatic page turn where essentially her entire culture is completely wiped out, right? And she gets, a little taste of the evilness, right? Like the crusade style domination that is coming her way and something that she's going to have to learn how to rebel against.
The way that they really develop the theocracy and then the landscape of the religious, cults, or if you will, taking over the land and really just like bringing that into the people. It's really effectively done. It runs that risk of being heavy handed, and it kind of walks that razor's edge, and
Yeah.
doesn't get to that point too, which is really great.
Yep. And here's just another example. We get a wide shot of her town, right? This is her home. Everybody's been completely wiped out, and we get to see like our first depictions here of like these crusaders, right, coming over to town, and just slaughtering everything in their past. And this is actually our bishop character right here. He's kind of their moral compass, right? He's the guy that's always pushing that message out, and just trying to assert their will, across the land. And this is really a dramatic shot right here of how they're kind of like brainwashing all these people, right? They're inside their helmets, they're in their heads, literally, in this way. And Little Bird's kind of reacting to the whole scene right here. And she just remembers her mission, right? She has to go see the act, she has to pass on this message. And we're going to be introduced to a very dramatic character here very soon.
And actually, these pages right here it's a really great time to talk about Ian Bertram because there's a lot of aspects to his art that I think are fantastic. But this is really the beginning showcases of character design that he's done, and I think it's really fantastic. Given that the title of the book is Little Bird, I love the way that our main character emulates, kind of like the owl aspects with the goggles that she's wearing,
Oh
the
yeah.
kind of the beak with the cloth that covers her face.
Yep.
Not only that, but then if you look at the, you said the moral compass, which, it is true, albeit that that compass for them is a little bit broken, but all of the religious characters, you could tell like the morality is completely drained of them. They're sickly, they're kind of like, they're very frail looking, but they're
Oh yeah.
also like exuding that, corrupt power. It's really great.
Yeah, yep. And we're going to see, the effects of that, type of rule on the populace here in the next coming pages. I love this shot here of the bishop. We're flipping over to the other part. This is New Vatican, United States of America, or United Nations of America, rather. We have this bishop type character, and this is very like reminiscent of like a placenta to me in a way, right? Like we have this single input, right? And we have this bath, which is presumably stem cells and blood and whatever technology we figured out, plasma and whatnot. It's almost like a rejuvenation chamber for our character here, who's being adorned by his disciples and meeting with some of the other members of like this clergy, right? And there's always this like dark undertone that like, we have to we have to assert our will, we have to assert our dominance. The flock will follow, right? And we have to do whatever we have to do to kind of like meet our end game, right? And so like this is a theme we're going to see throughout the rest of the book as well. But I just love the imagery, like you mentioned, that Ian puts inside this book.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's yeah, again, this is another example of like the great writing that Darcy has done here because essentially all stories, religious stories in particular are kind of our morality tales, right? But with all
Yep.
stories, they could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So it's kind of it's fun as a reader to see how how he's taking that notion of absolute power corrupting absolutely with
Hmm.
something that is supposed to be for the betterment of the people and the good of the people. So
Yeah. Yep. And in past interviews, Darcy has his own struggles with religion growing up, and just some of the contradictory aspects of it and whatnot. But he's really playing on what happens when you take something like that, like a theology like that, and you take it too far, right? And you develop this society around it, and it's just like completely corrupted. Like that's what's on display right here when things just go too far. Like even our bishop says, "I'm the vicar of Christ," right? So he's declaring himself essentially the pope, and here's all his followers. And what I like about this is you see the crowd right here. They're full of boils, but they're like deadpanned. Like their eyes, they're just completely I don't know, they look like puppets, right? They're just like their eyes are wide, they have no expression on their face, they have boils all over them. Some of them are dressed nicely. Throughout this book, this narrative is going to shift a little bit. And we're going to see the reaction from our bishop and everybody here. We're going to see that kind of shift. They're going to get a lot more desperate as time goes on, as this rebellion builds in the next coming issues here.
yeah.
So we have Little Bird here. She actually survived basically this, Holocaust moment almost at her tribe, right? She's reorienting herself. She's on this mission right now. Her mom sent her on. She's got to go find her grandfather. Her grandfather is the Axe. He's actually being held right now. The Bishop captured him in the past. We're gonna have some flashbacks that we're gonna dissect a little bit too. But she's talking about like like becoming the wolf, right? Like becoming one with nature, essentially, like using that relationship that they've built up and using it as a way to infiltrate this base. And this base is actually pretty interesting because it's housing the most dangerous people probably in this land, right? And we have some non-assuming guards and whatnot, and she's actually using like she's like a sheep in wolf's clothing in a way, right? She's using this like Trojan horse technique to infiltrate. And I love Ian's ability to like put all these other little Easter eggs in here too. Like there's not much I can pull from maybe this panel over here, but there's a bunch of cool prisoners and whatnot that he has inside of here that you can maybe draw loose connections to other things. But I like how, he's just kind of being fun with these pages. And yeah, that was basically my main takeaway from this whole early prison break scene right here. Did you enjoy this part? Did you pick up on anything, or what do you think about this whole section here?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like the amount of Easter eggs that we're going to see in here, it's more so than I think I would be able to even pick out myself personally. But yeah, it is kind of cool all the little tidbits that he's able to add in here. He's a super detailed artist. I would say that he almost kind of like almost gets close to a Jeff Darrow like type
Right.
aspect here. But I think he pulls back when in the level of detail that he puts in the background to kind of let some of the characters breathe a little bit.
Oh yeah. He's got like a little magician character. He's got like a Superman analog over here.
Hmm.
Maybe even like a little Yoda character or something like that. So like obviously obviously pulling some references from across the, like the spectrum. This is a world that is full of mods, right? And mods are people that can like genetically enhance themselves, maybe even artificially, like a cyborg type thing. And we learn in this book that those mods can actually be passed down from generation to generation, and they could adapt or change or amplify whatever it is. And we'll get into the reason why Bishop is so obsessed with this family in particular, as we explore more characters. But this is our big introduction to the Axe, who is Little Bird's grandfather here. And the main takeaway is Little Bird thinks that she's coming to rescue him. Like she's going through all these efforts, taking out the guards, disguising herself, getting her in this position. In reality, the Axe could have just got out whenever he wanted to. This is almost like a self punishment. Is that how you kind of took that as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, he was definitely exiling himself and kind of atoning for some sins that we'll learn a little bit more on in the book here.
Yeah.
I do think that it's really a great exploration of the identity of all of these characters, right? Not just our nameship character of Little Bird, but like even the Axe, right? Even the Bishop character that we've seen as we go through the story. A lot of what they're trying to get towards is their identity, who they truly
Mhm.
are underneath the skin, and their belonging in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I even like how the Canadian flag here is shaped like an axe.
Yes, yes,
It might
that's
be the distortion of like his body, his anatomy, and his chest, and the angle of the character, but like, come on, you have that right there, and then you have that right there. That's quite
he,
obvious, right?
yeah, he may feel sorrow for some of the things he's done previously in life, but his branding is on point.
His branding is on point for sure. And as an introduction, it's pretty dramatic. You know what I mean? He's punching his way through his own cell. He's obviously been through some battles. He's scarred head to toe, and he's just like a behemoth of a man, right? And so, yeah, so quite an impactful entrance right there, and leads us on to the next part. Back over in New Vatican again, there's this um, character, Little Bird's mom, right? She was actually captured. We saw the battle previously where she told Little Bird to go hide. She's actually captured by the bishop. Now, the bishop and her have a complicated history. He actually tried to, in a way, adopt her, right? And I think that he has some kind of an ability, or he recognizes the fact that this family is special because of their mods that they have. They have some kind of regenerative factor with them, with the axe, her mom, even Little Bird. We're going to realize here soon, and he needs that. They call it a miracle almost later in the book. They need that miracle to almost serve as evidence to their flock, right? Who are going to be wavering in their faith later on. We're going to get into that a little bit more, but this is our first interaction between Bishop and the mother right here. And she's locked up, obviously covered in blood. Who knows what
Mhm.
kind of trouble she got into with the guards leading up into this point. But it was just such like a dramatic page turn. I thought, we get these cool blues, we get this awesome moment with the axe. We turn the page and we are in a blood-soaked like hell hole prison situation here. What was this page like for you?
Well, I think that's you hit the nail on the head because one of the things that stand out to me is definitely the color palette that Hollingsworth is using on this.
Hmm.
When we're dealing with things that revolve around the Vatican and revolve around the religious aspects of this, he's using that cool color,
Yeah.
palette. Everything is very kind of still, static, and definitely very cold. But
And sterile,
anytime
right? Yeah.
sterile, yes, great. But anytime that we're dealing with the natives, right, whether it be Little
Hmm.
Bird, the axe, her mother, is a warm color palette. Even in this grotesque landscape that we're looking at right now,
Yep.
the feeling that you get from the page, regardless of how grotesque it may be, is a feeling of warmth, a feeling, more, I don't know, loving, caring, right? It gives you those
Yeah.
feelings as opposed to, the alternative of the religion.
Yep.
Another thing, though, going back to the character design, Ian
Hmm.
Bertram designing Tanto, I think it's really great the way that they evoke the imagery of a skull on her face, which immediately you think of death,
Yep.
which in comparison to what we learn about her later on in life and what we've alluded to already is that it's almost as if she is the avatar of the complete opposite of that, is immortality, of everlasting life. So I love that balance and that back and forth of the design as opposed to the notion of who this character is.
Yeah, I agree. And their color palette is striking, and we're obviously going to see a lot more evidence of that in the future here. And if you didn't pick up on her unique abilities or her family's abilities, it's really kind of on show as we go through, especially when the axe in this next scene starts getting into battle. But like even these minions of the bishop right here, Ian is creating these impossible characters, and this is just like a showcase of how crazy this world is. I mean, like, how is this being even alive? Right? We have insane weaponry, surgical torture devices, whatever they might be. But like, this just helps paint the picture of how crazy this world is, and the creative team just does such a good job of doing that with the colors, with the art, and just like the creepiness of the storytelling. So, yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right there.
Yeah, and it goes even further talking about how Darcy wanted to pitch this as a movie where, like, man, could you imagine seeing this like on the big screen in real life? Because like I don't know if you'd be able to capture that in the same way that you do with
Man,
Bertram's
it'd be
artwork.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that'd be difficult for sure. And this is not the last time we're going to see something impossible that you can't capture in any other medium,
yeah.
going forward. But yeah, Little Bird doing her best to take grandfather out. This is an interesting thing right here. These are maybe a certain level of enforcers, right? In this world, they call themselves the Army of 12, which is interesting because we have the disciples of the 12 and precious metal. So there's going to be some evolution there that we're probably going to unpack as we go through precious metal. But that's just one of those little bits of connective tissue that we're going to be seeing if you are enjoying both of those runs. So that is pretty cool. But this is the classic scene, right? They're in the elevator, they're on their way out, the door's open. Here are the disposable minions, right? And what do we do with disposable minions? We hack them in half, right? So
Yeah.
what another dramatic page turn. What do you think?
Oh my god, like, this is one of the best action set pieces in a comic book, probably within the last 4 years, to be
Hmm.
completely honest. Like, good lord, this is just like, I mean, look at that. You feel every single swing of the axe, man, like the
Yep.
blood splatter on the pages. That's it's just so amazing the way that he portrays everything that's going on there. Um,
Yeah.
it's worth taking more than 2 seconds to skim through that page because the word count is pretty darn low.
Yes. Who was it? Was it Marty Keene that said, you have to get over the fact that sometimes, people are page turning something that took you 2 days to draw. Like you don't do that with this kind of book, right? You enjoy every single panel, you enjoy every single square inch of this thing, and the battle opens up with Little Bird basically saying, "Yeah, so we're going to pass on that, thanks," because the instruction was to surrender essentially, and that's what just opens up this whole page. Also in this section right here, this is the first time we see Little Bird really kicking some ass, right?
Oh,
In the
yeah,
previous
definitely.
section, she gets owned by a guard. She gets thrown off guard, right? By this prison guard. And this is where she really shines, jumping around, showing her agility, almost like Yoda style, right? In the prequels, jumping all around and doing stuff. So yeah, that was pretty cool to show how powerful she actually is.
Yeah. And the difference between the characters too, right? The brute that's like slow but like swings his axe with such power, and then her just like
Yeah.
bouncing from person to person. Yeah, I
He's the
mean you
tank
could.
and she's the rogue, right? Or she's the
Yes,
assassin, right? Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Take on those MMO vibes. Yeah. Yep. So What's interesting too is, these guards are in self-destruct mode, so they have to escape pretty quickly, and then everything kind of explodes. There's a dramatic turn over here where they actually get a moment, a breather moment, right? And he's lost faith. There's a reason why he didn't escape previously, right? He's lost faith in his cause. Maybe he thinks there's no point in fighting. Maybe it's an inevitability that he's just trying to, hide from, right? Maybe everybody that he knows is gone. Who knows, right? Who knows how long he's been locked up? But little bird here, she's fresh on the mission. She's full of vigor. She's trying to figure all this out. She was told to find the axe because he's going to help lead this rebellion. And this is a moment where he basically turns his back on her in a way. You know what I mean? And she,
Hmm.
calls him a coward and you're stupid, things like that. So I think that was a pretty interesting moment in the book, especially after all that action.
Yeah. Well, like I was alluding to, like I think it's really great how he gives every character a chance to like really develop and grow. And what I like about these two is that they're both somewhat reluctant heroes in their stories for very different reasons, right? The
Hmm.
axe is, he doesn't feel he can be the hero. He looks too much on his past failings, whereas she's kind of just thrown into it. She wants to be a hero, but it wasn't by her own choosing or or something that she willed into existence. It was just, quite frankly, timing. Like, hey, we have no other choice. You're the person to have to do this.
Yeah. And remember, she's like days off of watching everybody that she knows die. Her
Exactly.
whole culture got wiped off. So again, she's just, she's at 11 right now, and she's just trying to do her best to continue that good fight. The next scene here is pretty dramatic because it introduces the idea of like this mod that they have, right? So during this whole "you're a coward, you're stupid" scene, she actually gets taken out with a bullet right through the neck, which I think as a directional device, this is really cool because at first you see the bang, you see this shocked look on her face, right? Accentuated by the exclamation point. You see her eyes lighten up, you see her tone change, right? And then you see this line that scoots right across and this blood trail, like this input and this output, right? So I think that was a really cool directional device that they had because it's not so obvious with all this other background red. Was it obvious to you at first, like what happened, or what did you think initially here?
No, and I think that's their ability to keep it subtle and to not make it like this blood splatter, right? Something that was
Yeah,
so obvious. I think that the level of restraint that they show is actually like showing their mastery of what they're trying to do here, more
yeah.
so than the alternative. So yeah, I kind of love what they're doing and how they approached it.
Yeah, subtle's a good word for that. Yep, it's not too on the nose. There's a lot of themes with this watch too, and I'll be interested as we go through this book to hear what your thoughts are overall. It's more of it's more of a analog style watch, right? So
Hmm.
it's something that represents maybe the past, it represents time, it represents whatever it represents, right? And it switches hands throughout characters throughout this book too. So there might be some themes there we can unpack as we go through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is really the first time we see kind of like their power. Of course, this was the initial guard that Little Bird interacted with, who she used to break into the prison, and Axe definitely takes care of him, putting his name,
That's the
utilizing
nicest way
his
to
name.
say that. Yeah.
Yep, and of course he picks up that watch. Who he thought he thought he'd never see this artifact again. He was surprised that she recovered it. So again, there's some sentimental value right there. But this is really where we start getting some flashbacks. Sarge kind of gets reoriented in his his mission, I guess. This is the letter that Little Bird's mom gave her before she, closed that hatch and assumingly was wiped out.
Hmm.
Sarge kind of gets reoriented into the mission. You know what I mean? Like he sees the destruction from the prison he was in. He reads the letter from the mom. He realizes the mission that Little Bird is on, and we get a little preview of some of the flashbacks that we're going to get, more context on later on.
Yeah. And I love the way that they end that because it's showing that, the way forward is to reconcile the past, right? Like to
Right.
get, to move forward. So this is our first inkling of that kind of notion. So what a great effective cliffhanger to the first issue.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. On the doorsteps of hell, we had a plan: free the axe, save the people, free the North, save the world. And so we're all going to be aligned at the end of this. And the great issue number 2, I believe, cover
Yeah.
right there. And you pointed out as we're going to progress, we have this. We're going to be introduced to a character very soon that has this modification of these like tentacles. This is going to be like an evolving thing featuring different characters, and this wave is going to, or this level is going to rise and kind of like strangle out our characters in a way. So interested to see what your thoughts might be on that as we progress through.
Oh yeah, I think that just like with everything with Bertram's artwork, the level of detail and care that he puts into it, specifically when you look at that cover progression, yeah,
Yep,
it really follows the theme of the book and really the landscape of what our heroes are having to deal with.
for sure.
I'm kind of curious though, on the first read, especially of
Hmm.
that first issue, what was your what was your notion of where they're taking this? Because we didn't really know about the background of these characters and their powers, and kind of the fact that there was a level of safety, even though it very much looked like they died. Like, did your jaw hit the floor when you read this the first time?
Yeah, knowing that it was just like the first issue, there's obviously a lot of mystery that we're going to be unpacking here in a way, and I can't remember if we really understood how related some of these characters were at the moment. But what I think I remember coming out of these issues was like these people are able to withstand impossible physical damage. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the mother was presumably in a war. Maybe she got taken out. I don't know. Especially these drones here look like they're not going to give her a hug, right? They're going to rip her apart in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Axe right here, like he's got an impossible healing factor. He's like a Wolverine tank-like character. We've seen this kind of character before in storytelling. Who knows what Little Bird has besides like agility and fighting and like this like need to seek revenge, right? And continue this mission. So
Mhm.
I don't know if I knew enough yet in the story to really understand what is going to happen, especially how the next issue is going to open, and that's going to help set the stage for like why are these people so important to the bishop? Why are these people so important to this this religious regime, right? And what do they want to do with that power? We unpack that in the future issues. What about you though? Did you have any kind of inkling of where the story would go from here?
No, and it was a jaw-dropping moment for me, which is why I was kind of curious on your reaction to it. Because when the namesake of the book presumably dies in the last issue, or in the last
And
pages
at
of
the
the
end of the
first
first
issue,
issue? Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit jarring. You in a big two book, you would anticipate, okay, well, there's going to be a twist and turn, but that's kind of the lovely thing about indie books, is that you really
Right.
don't know how things are going to play out. Anything is game.
Yeah. Yep. And doing some googling on like the themes of Little Bird itself, like the word, right? Like where that word is derived from. There's references of like harbinger of change, things like that. And so we're going to see that change trying to endure throughout this entire story. And going into issue number 2, our opening page right here is actually with her mom and Little Bird. She's under this tree, right? And you could take from that what you want. It has deep roots into the ground. So maybe it's ancient. It looks weathered to me. It's like the only vegetation that's still left in this area. It's got a few leaves on it. It could be like the tree of the world or something like that, right? You could pull whatever theme you want. But it's also housing Little Bird right here, and it's almost like a cocoon or a womb of some way, right? And Little Bird's walking through here. There's some amazing artwork by EM in here, just putting together some impossible characters, some really surreal psychedelic imagery here in this dream state, right? Like the all-seeing eye, whatever that could possibly be. And she's confused. She doesn't know why she's here. She's in this dream, and her mother's trying to walk her through this. And it was really kind of shocking to see this. I didn't quite know what to make of this at first, but we're almost showcasing like the origin of the mother, of her mother in this instance here, like how the bishop found her in a way, and he actually helped bring her back to health, discovers this potentially this power within her. And it was kind of a shocking way to reveal that. And I don't think you really appreciate this moment until later. This is why this is one of those books where you have to read it 2 or 3 times to kind of catch all these things, because at first glance, you're like, what the heck is actually happening in here? But then as you go, it all makes sense. Was that obvious to you at first, or did you have to read this whole thing to kind of figure this out?
No, I mean, yeah, this is something that you can take things at face value, but it's so much more worthwhile on a reread and on a
Yeah.
third read and a fourth read, right? Because yeah, just like you were pointing out, the iconography that they use here and the
Hmm.
ways that you can interpret those things, like you had mentioned, like the world tree, right? But you can
Right.
also look at it from a familial aspect. That could be a family tree, the roots being the family, like how the
Absolutely.
branches stem off. On the next page as well, we also work with the fact that we're kind of dealing with her possibly being dead and some of the notions of their powers, and then we jump into almost like an MC Escher esque landscape that they're walking through with that impossible landscape, the impossible
Right. Right.
stairs, which also kind of emulate the Mobius strip, right? All of these things being
Yep.
impossible structures, just like it's impossible for a person to be alive after what they had just dealt with. So I love all of the different interpretations that you can take just from the page layouts.
Yeah, yeah. And minimal text. It is there, but mom's talking about a girl who casted herself into the darkness. Now, you know, I interpreted it as being her. We see like this gentle fall that this character has, right? Falling, falling, falling. We actually hit the ground, presumably dead. We get resurrected, right? So there's this constant rebirth kind of a thing going on. And, we get a little story on the mother right here. She gets brought up, she gets healed. We have the early bishop right here trying to, at first I was like, well, is he a romantic element? Is he going to be a father figure, something like that? He always seems to take the role of like a father figure in a way. Um, you know, he wasn't my real father at all. Those kinds of mentions. She steals this clock. It has this like axe emblem that we've seen before with the flag we saw on his chest before. So we're just getting a very, very quick um, moment here showcasing like the mom's past and her relationship with the bishop. And maybe she was part of this regime and she kind of crawled out of it and met back with the resistance and whatnot. And everything that she was told was a lie. Like the axe is some savage that's preventing them to spread the love of the church across the world, but there's this impossible barbaric being that is delaying that, right? And we have to do something about it. And she like learns the truth about the rebels and the mods. This is the first time they mentioned the mods, right? And you can see like here's the street up here, and here's like uh the what would you call it? The
The
culture living
sewer,
in the
the
sewers,
underdwelling, yeah.
the underdwelling, right? Yeah. And she becomes a target. She escapes, and we get to see like the persecution and the injustices or whatever that are happening over here. And we continue into we learn that she's actually pregnant now. Do you have anything? Did you want to mention anything on this section here? Because I specifically have questions about this right here. But anything else you wanted to cover on these pages?
Just the notion of her being saved, right, and how she very clearly was part of the religious faction, at least for a second, came to her senses. But it is an interesting notion about how we look towards. We can reconceptualize even some of the most dastardly things when we're looking for comfort and where we're looking for safety, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of one of the things that she got caught up in.
Yep. She said she was searching for answers over here, and she searched and searched and to figure out where she came from because she knew that wasn't her real father, and she eventually came to know the truth about what's
Hmm.
going on, the injustices and whatnot. And she's going back to her roots. She's leaving that sterile environment right here that we talked about. It's cold, it's not inviting, it's whatever it is, and she's embracing nature again, right? Like literally crawling out of the darkness into the light, into the here. And I just love, we talked about it before, the iconography of all this. In the forest, in the woods, there's a nice farmland, a nice old woman that's essentially bringing her in and whatnot. What I still don't know to this day, and maybe you have some answers, and if not, we can continue forward. Is she's pregnant here? She's carrying twins. I don't know. I don't know how we got from here to here. Do you have any thoughts or ideas on how we got there? Like, who's the father here? Do we know?
Well, so I interpreted it that it absolutely was the bishop, and I know you had alluded
Mm,
to like, is there a relationship? Is it more so like,
could be. Yeah.
yeah, I definitely that's how I took it. Now maybe I'm just inferring that because of what we find out with another character, Gabriel, in future issues, but that was definitely my takeaway.
It's the most obvious one, and because you can you I mentioned the father thing, and you can obviously in this context you can use that word interchangeably for a lot of different things. It would certainly allude to that. You know what I mean? Like he finds a woman of reproductive ages. You know what I mean? And maybe tries to manipulate her. And but there's a lot of things you can do there. That's the most obvious answer,
Yeah,
I would
it's an
say.
easy needle to thread.
Yeah, yeah. And they play with the words a little bit like that too. And so he basically every child that comes in, he calls him like I'm your father, right? Or your cover or come here, my child. And obviously in this setting, you can use those words. They're homonyms, right? So you could use them
Yep.
in any way. But this is really cool. Like she's finally found happiness, right? She's swept away. Uh and it's just beautiful, right? She can kind of relax now. She's out of that bishop's gaze. But of course, things are short lived. There's like these random house checks or whatever they might be. They're trying to find this girl. There's a warrant out for her, essentially. There's a reward and everything. And she goes back to her, base instincts, right? Survival. She ends up taking some people out. She's on the run right now. And unfortunately, this is a moment, again, she's in this cocoon almost, right? She's in this safe space where she's also hiding, but it's also like a womb kind of a thing where she ends up going into labor, which is like the most unfortunate timing ever, right?
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
we get to see some of that imagery right here as well.
Well, and I love the fact that it's almost bringing the issue full circle as we started with little bird being underneath the tree within the roots, like, and you had
Hmm.
even mentioned within the womb, coming full circle back to this point now, where we're
Yeah,
seeing this mother give birth in somewhat of the same landscape. Really kind of beautiful echoes and imagery there.
yeah, for sure. And we don't quite know what to make of this just yet. Again, when you're reading this for the first time, you have the context that you have. You don't have the benefit of reading the entire story. So more, this will more make sense as we go through. But the last shot we have here is a hand coming out of presumably the ground in some dramatic fashion. Right? There's some kind of birthing going on at this moment. We switch over to maybe presumably another character, and we have this rebirth in a way. And we're going to get into that more as we go through. But we're introduced to a new character over here. We're back over at New Vatican. This is actually Gabriel. Gabriel is another child that's under the bishop's eyes right now. He's being indoctrinated, so to speak. He's very well fluent in the teachings and whatnot, and the bishop is very proud of them. There was some, I think, in previous pages there was some hint that Gabriel's not well. He's sick, right? And no matter what kind of technology they have, they utilize, they just can't seem to figure it out. And we're going to unpack that some more as we go through. But this is actually a moment here where we have the report coming back to the bishop from his guards, right? From his folks, and they're basically saying, "Hey, the axe is out, and there's this mysterious person that helped him get out." And so the first thing I immediately look to is like, okay, we're introduced to a brand new child, and we have Little Bird here, presumably around the same age, same height, same kind of stature, and whatnot. There might be more to this, and we get to unpack that as we go forward. But what do you think of this opening scene here with Gabriel?
It was really fascinating, like it was, on the initial read, it felt like we were being introduced to characters at a breakneck pace, to be completely honest. So like you're taking
Yeah,
in a lot of information, which
a
is
lot to keep
why,
up with. Mhm.
yeah, exactly, which is why this is it's worthwhile to do a reread on this just to make sure that you pick up on all the nuance and the details that you're getting.
For
But I
sure.
think it's a really fascinating character specifically because again, like there's so many echoes and there's so many like mirror versions of everything that's happening on here. And I think it's fascinating that Gabriel wears a mask very similarly to how Little Bird wears a mask as well. And how you can interpret that, the masks that we put on ourselves or the masks that we're giving to each other. And how that maybe kind of just changes the perception of reality. I think it's
Yeah.
really cool how they play with that.
Yeah, and the mask is a good point because the little bit that you can see underneath him, he's actually skin wise, like everything is cracked. His eyes seem, everyone's eyes seem a little dilated, but his especially. Um, there's something going on with this kid, right? He's got this weird tube apparatus going into his nose, going up into his head. We don't know what's going on with this guy, but he's unwell, and he does a
Yeah,
great job of showing you that right here. Without that mask, it would just be an ugly face with a sickly child. But with the mask, he's normal, right? He's not emoting at all. He's kind of that puppet, right? And
yeah.
he matches the scene that we saw earlier with the crowd. And maybe from, if you're around them all the time, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see that sickness underneath. So yeah, great call out on the masks.
Yeah, and it emulates like an oxygen tank so well. So, like you were saying,
Mhm.
if a mask wasn't there, it could just be quote unquote an ugly person, right? But this at least gives you it evokes that like medical kind of aspect to it. So
Yeah,
really
definitely
effective.
sickly. Yeah.
Hmm.
There's a theme they introduced later in the book about these like spiders when they hatch, they actually devour their mother as like their first substance. And it's the way for them to evolve and grow and to like, propagate, right?
Hmm.
There's a theme over in this book too about like kind of like burying your past or consuming your parents. And, and that there's a lot of different philosophy around that, obviously. There's a moment here where Bishop takes Gabriel down into the crypts essentially. And there's this, uh, prisoner chamber where the mother is being held at this moment. And I don't think the relationship between um, Gabriel and this mother, I think her name is Tantu, that's not quite obvious to the reader just yet, and it's not obvious to Gabriel, of course. But obviously, the bishop is a sadistic dude, and he kind of uses this moment as a ritual or as a, I don't know, what would you call it,
Like a rite
um,
of passage
like a rite of
almost.
passage, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, this is an evil woman. She's done a lot of bad things. She's stopping our our progression. She needs to be taken care of. Raise your hand and pledge yourself to his holy war and choose God. And he actually is the person that pushes the button to essentially, eat his own mother in a way. And
Hmm.
you get to see that this moment right here is pretty powerful as well. Like, it's almost like he gets a bump in the faith again, right? But I don't know, like he's going to learn over time that like this isn't the right path or anything. But there's these little moments here that you might think that, oh, he's drinking the Kool-Aid completely, and there's no hope for this kid. That'll
Well, and
change.
yeah, I love how like open ended they keep it, right? Because we don't know which direction he's going to go, but again, on rereads, when you look at it, you can see we see the reflection of the fire, right? Which could be evocative of the fact that he's ingesting the fact that this is something that a person is capable of, and sometimes this is a
Right.
necessary evil. The
Yep.
other flip side is that it's a warm color palette. He is seeing possibly his mother for the first time, and seeing that there is maybe a reflection of the person that he's doing this to upon himself as well. So a lot of different ways that you can look at it.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Another dramatic page turn again. Just does such a good job with that. Just using the medium. We are introduced to Little Bird again, coming up out of the ground. So this was obviously a retelling, or this was our hint right here that there was some kind of rebirth. She was presumably killed, and so this is our first time that we get to see her back up. We're going to meet some resistance members coming up over here, and so we don't quite know that just yet. But she was buried, perhaps part of a ritual of her rebirth. I'm not entirely sure if they knew that was a thing. Maybe they just presumed it. It's definitely um, alluded to here in a way that maybe they predicted it. She has risen, obviously, a callback to Easter,
Hmm.
and it seems like they expected it, but maybe not. Who knows? But any takeaways from that? Did you think that they actually expected this, or why would they bury her? Do you think?
Well, I don't know. Well, first of all, I guess we don't know who buried her, right? But I was always under the assumption that, some well being bystanders, did what you do with a dead body, which is to bury it. And it was truly shock and surprise that she was reemerging from the ground as opposed to an expectation.
Hmm. Yeah, the assumption I had going into this was Axe probably buried her, took her to the Resistance, buried her, and we're going to see a little bit of that coming up soon. And
Yeah.
then maybe that was part of the ritual. Maybe that was part of these are the steps you have to go through with our kind to figure this out, right? And to make
Yeah.
this happen. But we're introduced to another character. To your point, there's a lot of characters that are introduced into here. Effectively, I think there's these robots that the bishop has sent out to scour the land, trying to find this resistance, trying to find the axe and Little Bird. We come across this other uh, ex crusader who's was sent. I think she mentioned that she was sent to take out Little Bird's family and that whole town, but she changed her mind at the last minute. Now she's in exile. And
Hmm.
she's going to align with Little Bird. But of course, there's a lot of animosity between these two groups of people, and so we get to see that play out a little bit more over here. There's a little bit of "I saved you, you saved me" kind of stuff that we're going to unpack here later as well. But I love these monsters, these like robots over here. What'd you think of these at first? What did that remind you of when you first saw it? Do you remember?
Yeah, it has a very Matrix feel to me, and I don't know if you
Exactly.
felt. Yeah, you too. Okay, good. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it totally felt like I believe they called them Sentinels in the movie, but
Sentinels.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I love the squid-like aspects of it. Like, I think yeah, really effective, and I love the character that's introduced here because it's one of those characters that we only get to spend a little bit of time with, but I would absolutely read a book. Give me a 5-issue series with that character in it, because I think that would be a really fascinating take on a person who leaves something behind, kind of a character between worlds that has no home, basically.
I wonder if this will be the third book. That would be interesting too to get this character's perspective, right? Because we
Well,
get Sarge in this next one. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we deal with what we presume is the present days, per se. In this book, we delve into the past. Maybe the next one is, in the future of this world.
Darcy explained it as a triangle, essentially, and Little Bird being the pinnacle, right? And then the precious metal being one of the base corners. But there's this other base corner that he didn't elaborate on, as far as I'm
Mm,
aware. So there's another viewpoint into this overall epic tale that he hasn't told yet. And I think this would be a cool character because she turncoats, right? Like
yeah.
she's on this mission, she's in it. She gets told what the next mission is. She gets on the doorstep of that mission and she goes, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And she rebels and she becomes part of the resistance as we go on. our fight with our sentinels continue. Everyone's injured at the moment. Things look bleak, and this is where EM really plays uh, with the panels. Right, he does a really good job of just making things look chaotic, look impossible. There's a strangulation going on here with that sentinel, and
Hmm.
all these automatopoeias in a way. Right,
Yeah,
um, only to reveal one of our heroes. Right, so another great page turn, another great moment.
dude. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, there's so much to like about this book, and I really love the fact that whether it's a heavy page with a lot of different panels and a lot of different storytelling mechanisms, or the page turn of that splash page, just seeing the
Yeah,
axe sitting there. Wow, dude! Like, I mean,
yeah.
again, just masterful visual storytelling, like at its very best.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the fade in, obviously over here, and then the fade out rather, and then the fade back in to
Hmm.
clarity, and that nice dramatic close up right there when we have the axe saying "Welcome to the Resistance."
Yeah,
So yeah, that was really great. Um, there's a lot of other cronies that the bishop is working with right now. Obviously, they're still on the lookout for the axe and this mysterious other person that helped him escape. There's some reports like, yes, we have a lot of squadrons out right now trying to find them. We have some drones that have gone missing, but that's just a coincidence. And of course, the bishop does not share that same opinion. Like, of course, it's not a coincidence. Like, no, that is them. Send more troops. Go get them. Right. So, yeah, love it. Love it. Just loving the will that the bishop has right here to kind of to find their guy.
yeah, he definitely has a stranglehold on the people, but definitely those closest to him.
Yeah. Yep. And this little beat right here, it's very, very short, but again, it's Gabriel basically talking to his father, and just saying, like, I can't sleep anymore. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm losing faith in a way. My prayers go unanswered. There's only silence. And the bishop right here, I love this too. He's almost side-eyeing. He's just like, yeah, I know, dude.
Yeah,
I'm with you, but I've drank the Kool-Aid for too long to really give up. And so, like, when our mission is complete, that's when God will answer all of our prayers, and answer all of our questions. But until then, we have work to do. You know what I mean? So I just love that moment right there.
yeah, it just further goes to, like, to further develop that character, that he's not working off of devotion. He's not working off of, like, the religious aspects of it. He's not, he doesn't really, he's not a believer anymore. What he is a believer in is maintaining the power that he has.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, we get the axe bring now that Little Bird's part of the resistance. We have the axe bringing her in right now, introducing her to uh, to the rebellion essentially. And this is a classic, rebel story right here for the dream. They have their own doctrine. You know what I mean? They're drinking their own Kool Aid in a way, but it seems more. You seem obviously more on their side just because it's more rooted in nature. It's more rooted in family and in community, right? And so, yeah, it's not that hard to align yourself with their dream
Yeah.
in comparison. So, and here's that great, I guess it's issue number 3 cover as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see, just as the resistance is rising, though, the Vatican is rising just the same here to swallow up our heroes. And
Yeah,
you see it every single cover.
that oppressive something is rising, right?
Yep,
Yeah, I
exactly.
love that, and maybe it's even foreshadowing to a character we're going to be introduced to
Yeah.
here as well. I tried to bridge that gap too. I couldn't quite get there, but we have a plan. We have this groundhog. It's this boring, this tunneling instrument right here. Maybe it's filled with explosives, or it's going to be another way to infiltrate some of the Vatican areas, getting blowing some gates up, whatnot, so the resistance can come through. And um, we touch on a moment here again. This is that rebel, right? That rebel that kind of turncoat and ran into Little Bird with the Sentinels and whatnot. She's basically, I don't know where she's taking her necessarily, but she's basically saying, like, I saved you. Like, where are we going? What are we doing? And Little Bird's kind of being cold to her, like, no, you're a traitor or whatever. I'm taking you out here to kill you. That was the plan and everything. And Little Bird does the exact opposite. She actually frees her and says, "You're dead. The dead never speak." And basically, her owl speaks to her, and she goes, "Well, you know what? She saved my life. I saved hers. She's on her own path now. She's on the path of righteousness from their perspective, right? She's not on the oppressive side anymore. She wants to rebel against that. And why would you snuff that? Why not let that mature and blossom?"
Yeah, I kind of love how it shows the compassion of the character of Little Bird too, because she very easily could have done what the Vatican would have done with any other character, which we kind of saw with Gabriel and her mother and his mother.
Yep.
But she chooses a different path, right? It shows the difference between the two factions, being the religious zealots and the resistance.
Yeah, yeah, that cold-hearted and calculated versus compassion and life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Sarge and some of the rebels, they're in their tunneling machine now. Their objective is to destroy this gate that's going to lead into the Vatican. It's got an explosive payload in it, and so they're on their way, right? They're being navigated and whatnot, and then the other rebels are going to help, storm the gates, so to speak. This is our introduction to a character that's actually prominent in Precious Metal. This is Sarge, and this is the first time we see him inside of this story, and we get to see his story presumably play out inside of this series here. But I'm glad we got a little prequel right now in Precious Metal to explore his past, and there's a lot of character dialogue in here alluding to events in the past, and it's at the time it's a world building technique, right? We're showing connections between characters, the history between them. These characters have been around for a long time. Aesthetically, what do you think of Sarge when you first saw him right here? He's pretty crazy though, right?
Yeah, hard living, heavily modded character. Yeah, I think it really plays up the aspect of who he is as a person, and I kind of love that they are playing with different factions of the resistance. Right, the resistance, it's similar to like Star Wars almost, right? Like there
Yeah,
is a rebellion, but there's also like different factions with different viewpoints. He very much kind of takes on one of those roles.
yeah. I got to look back at Precious Metal now and see how many of these modifications we can spot. Early on, 35 years ago, fake
Hmm.
hand, both legs are prosthetic. Of course, he has these tentacles for a left arm. That's unique. That's the same. Eye patch and whatnot. I think he's got an eye patch in Precious Metal. He's got this scar over his eye, very very weathered. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Surrounded by booze, presumably drugs. Seems to be obsessed with coin, right? He's flipping through a coin right here. Drunk in the
Hmm.
middle of the day. So like, yeah, very very unique character. They pick up the fact that there's this boring machine underneath, right? And they have this special craft with these magnetic abilities, and they actually pull it up, and they reveal that Sarge is in there, and they're kind of caught off guard as well. Like, oh no, like we're on this mission. What's the deal right now? Now we talked about in previous a few pages ago that the bishop is sending more units out, right? Trying to take out this rebel element. This is a really cool use of technology, I thought, that we're going to see here very soon. This forest right here comes against the tree line. Again, it's like the unknown. It's whatever. Rebels are all sneaking up inside of there, and they're met with a bunch of gunfire. And presumably this is our crusaders are in a really bad spot. And what I like about this though is like we keep jumping back and forth. We don't finish one little section and jump to the next one. Like the story is broken up into these little beats, and it's always like on this cliffhanger in a way. You know what I mean? Like our ship is pulled up. Oh no, we're off course. Now we're going to switch direction. We're going to get some rebel action here. Oh no, we're in gunfire. Now we're going to switch course again and go into this. It really helps the pace of the book. What do you think about that?
Well, it's showing it's kind of like that old, trope, the team has been split up, and it's a really great way of showing that these things are happening simultaneously, and that
Yeah.
this isn't a battle that's happening on one front. It's happening across many different fronts with many different people in many
Hmm.
different ways.
Yep. Great storytelling element. Really good way to push the story forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Axe right here and Sarge, they actually go way back. They pull all the people out. They're going to see what their bounty is, right? They're excited. They're kind of like pirates in the world. Axe and Sarge, they embrace over here. There's a long history between these characters that we don't know as a reader at this point. Maybe we're going to see it in Precious Metal. That's kind of the hope at this point.
Yeah.
Sarge, though, he pulls a Lando, essentially, right?
Dude, you
He
took the words out of my mouth, man. I was about to say
yeah,
I love how it's like Han and Lando right there, except yeah, he definitely takes it a step further.
it's a Han Lando situation, embracing him initially, capturing him because, he's in the pockets of other people at this point. And we're understanding that as a character. And so, yeah, that was a great scene. Obvious parallel there, I thought. This is one of those moments in the book that really made me go like, okay, artistically, this is like brilliant. I don't know why that this just hit me. It's just such a good moment. Our rebels are in the trees. Our crusaders, I'll call them that, are on the run at this point. They introduce this like stick, right? And he just yells, "Grounded, stay flat, ignition," and this disc just comes out through the middle and completely chops down the resistance and all the trees, all the life, all the vegetation around them. And we're left with this really cool image right here of everything just sawed in half. cool imagery between humans being cut right in half, trees being cut right in half, lots of blood, lots of gore. What'd you think about this whole scene right here?
This is a creative team working in conjunction and having trust for one another. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the best example of that because it shows Darcy's restraint, like kind of navigating that, but it shows his trust in Ian Bertram to show, the technology like you had alluded to, and kind of like the impact of what just happened here. No words, Matt Hollingsworth on full effect here for the coloring of
Yeah. Oh yeah,
whatever, the
this.
laser, the cutting device, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, again, this is just showing that, given time, a creative team can do magnificent things like this.
Yeah. And this book took years to develop. I mean, no, from a story beat, from a drawing perspective, like this is the fruits of that labor for sure.
Yes.
It's almost like a Destructo disc from Dragon Ball Z in a way.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
those who catch that reference. Great moment. One of the soldiers right here, he seems impacted. What a brutal scene this is. Like this is what one of these guys says, "Oh, I always wanted to do that." Right? Push that button. Meanwhile,
Hmm.
this guy's over here. It's implanting on his brain in ways that he'll never comprehend. So,
Yeah.
really interesting dichotomy there. Sarge, with this carbonite style containment unit, right? I mean, how else do you hold back this impossible being from just ripping out, right? And he's
Yeah.
basically going like, listen, I go where the money is. That's exactly where I go. And I got you now. You're the biggest prize of them all because I know somebody who wants you. And that's basically where we're at with this relationship. We don't trust each other at this point. Sarge just kind of lost hope, I think. And yeah, I'm taking you back to the villain at this point. So really cool moment there between those two.
Exactly. Yeah, we kind of get to the point. All hope is lost. Our heroes are, down on their luck. Nothing's going to happen that's going to behoove them by any means. And then we turn the page and we see that little bird is still there fighting the fight, which is such a great page turn. It's such a good setup for the rest of this story.
Absolutely. I don't remember how she got in this little containment unit. I think she was a stowaway, right? So she
Hmm.
probably stowed away. She not sure how that happened, but I like what happens in here. Again, full display, very Superman esque or superhero esque, right? Flying into danger, got that cape, everything. Really really cool moment right there.
Yeah, see, and it evokes the imagery that we had with the axe in issue number one as well, whereas she was, kind of bouncing around the bullets, dancing between the raindrops. Here, she's just like going full force, like straight
Yep.
into the fire.
Yep. Then we have Sarge over here basically delivering his prize to the bishop's cronies over here, in exchange for his gold. You got your credits. I'm sure you're going to want to leave now, pay off whatever debts you have paid off, obvious stuff right here. I don't know if Sarge's intention was to literally make this transaction and leave. There's a moment here where this person right here, he actually orders his troops to execute all the other rebels in front of Sarge and the axe. And Sarge actually just says right here, like, Jesus, did you have to do that? And this guy's like, well, yeah, but where's the fun of it if I don't have a little bit of sport as well? You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
really, really brutal moment here. This might be the moment where he turns. We'll never quite know. He may have had this plan to kind of turn on these guys, but now certainly he does.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you what your interpretation of that was, because that's how I took it as well. Is like, had that not happened, Sarge could have been the dastardly character that just walked away with the money and kind of like, washed his hands of it. But I think this
Yeah,
was the thing that flipped that switch.
yeah. We don't know. I don't think, and that's kind of fun about it. But there is something like if this wasn't enough reason right here, in order to appease somebody like him, you have to mess with his bounty, and we're going to see that play a little bit out right coming up pretty soon as well. So he
Hmm.
has a couple different reasons. You can think he's righteous, or you can just think that he may have gotten the bad end of the deal from his perspective, and that causes him to retaliate later. Well, we'll get into that here in a minute, though.
Yep.
So Little Bird's not the only stowaway in this instance right here. Gabriel actually goes out as well against father's wishes, against all safety and everything. And this is the moment where they actually meet. He's in the darkness right now. She's in the light. He comes out very emperor style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Comes out and she asks, "Who are you?" Right. And he basically takes that mask off, like you said. And we get to see how grotesque he really is. And this is a moment where these characters kind of lock eyes and they start to realize, like, holy crap, like we might be more connected than we realize at this moment. Really cool scene here.
Exactly. Yeah, you could tell that they have that, looking into a mirror moment between one another, which is obviously what we're supposed to take away from it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Here's our crusader that little bird freed earlier. She's still around in the picture as well. Like there's a lot of like being at the right place at the right time moments in this whole section over here that didn't bother me at all. Like I was totally on board with all this stuff. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. Sarge over here thinking he got the raw end of the deal. Like, wait a minute, is this even really real gold? And they're like, yeah, it's government stamped or whatever, government issued. And he uses this almost as an excuse to create this drama between these people after he just witnessed them wipe out all the rebels. And of course, it leads into some gunfight and whatnot. And ultimately, Sarge goes over here and releases the axe so the axe can join the battle, of course.
Hmm.
And really, really cool moment over here, especially this ending over here. What'd you think about all this?
Oh, it was another great action set piece, right? And it was one of those moments where they build up the level of tension to like a fever pitch, and then they,
Yeah.
when it gets released right here, it
Yep.
just makes it so worthwhile.
There's a moment here where we actually think that Sarge is killed. He's getting some of his troops together. They're on the run essentially, right? They're a little bit outgunned, maybe. They're running back on their ship, and Axe rather sees this missile coming, and he's yelling for Sarge. And as Sarge goes into the ship over here, so does this missile, and presumably, Sarge is killed in this moment, and we get to see what happens with that character later on. And then the repercussions here when the bishop actually shows up. He's alerted that this is going on, and the bishop shows up, and this is our square down. This is the build up to the whole axe bishop moment right here. And what a crazy scene this was too.
Yeah. And this is our first glimpse at the notion that, Sarge, like, or I'm sorry, not Sarge, but the axe is, uh, he's powerful, right? Maybe all
Yeah,
powerful, but this is the first time where you're like, oh, maybe he might not win.
yeah. He's not like Wolverine, or he's not like a character that can survive anything. He can survive a lot, but these odds
Yeah,
are a little bit too tall for him. Yep,
exactly. This is the first time his power is absolutely tested.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, and we're under this like fire squad, fire being a big theme in this whole thing. These minions right here, I forget what they call themselves, like the Army of the 12 or whatever it was earlier in the issue. Like these guys are menacing, man. Like
Oh,
they're
yeah.
they're they're just so crazy and oppressive. So
Hmm.
really good character design for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see the ship escaping right now. We have Gabriel. We have the crusader, the crusader that had kind of turned. We have Little Bird uh, tied up essentially over here, and they're just basically trying to escape. And she wants to bring Gabriel back to the bishop. She thinks she's going to have some big reward. This part kind of confused me, like her motive. Essentially, maybe she just wanted to get close or get enough money to like I don't know move on with her life or whatever. In any case, it reunites these two characters right here
Hmm.
and brings Little Bird into the bishop's attention as well, despite what's going on with the axe right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Really cool scene. Look at that. That was an amazing panel right there.
Yeah. And you're right. The imagery of fire is used over and over and over in this book really
Hmm.
effectively.
There's a moment right here where they actually embrace. He's converted now, back in the day, or, when they first met, his conviction probably wasn't that high, but, he's telling her, you know, sorry, I couldn't be more for you. You need to run, things like that. And really, really dramatic moment right here, almost like a Ned Stark moment, right? In like Game of Thrones, where
Oh, man.
there's just
Yeah.
nothing people can do but just watch this happen, and it's just brutal what happens here. And then
Hmm.
again, we have our fire theme. Really cool moment there.
Yep.
Then, of course, in classic Little Bird fashion, we're going to get this really dramatic moment to end the issue. Little Bird on the run right now, jumping around. Bishop, one step ahead, impales her. Great use of shadows. Holy crap. Right
Yeah.
here. And it goes, all right, my girl, daddy's got you. Playing on that theme a little bit more. Crazy ending for this issue.
Dude, yeah. Again, at least we know that this isn't the end for the character in the way that we thought it may have been in the end of issue one. But yeah, again, great effective way to leave us off on a cliffhanger, wanting more.
And we lost so much. We lost the axe in this issue. We learned a little bit more about Gabriel. Maybe there's some more stuff going on. We're going to unpack that going forward. So much tension and drama leading up to the bishop actually finding Little Bird, and we have this impale moment. So, like as a reader, you feel doomed, right? Right. This
Hmm.
sense of impending doom. Like, holy crap, what are we going to do to get out of this situation? Rising tides again, consuming. This time featuring Gabriel. Great shot right there.
Yep.
Next issue, these are those spiders I was talking about, these ones that hatch and that they consume their mom. That's obviously a metaphor, for killing your parents, so to speak, to thrive, shedding that whatever that weight is, and pulling forward. Rebels are gearing up right now. The secret's out where they are at this moment. We have our bishop's army is coming as well, and so we have this big epic showdown between all them in this like capturing moment. Really, really cool scene. I love that panel in particular. How'd you like this part?
Oh, dude, it's great. Again, it's just like masterful artwork, great dialogue, and the layout, like the setup of the premise of the issue. I love how we get the cliffhanger, and it doesn't just jump us right back into the action necessarily, but it kind of builds up
Mhm.
the notion of
Yeah,
of what the storyline is, has been and where it's kind of going without just doing a dump. Like here you go, we're right back into it. It gives us that beat.
yeah, yeah. I need to pay attention to like the paneling is very organic as well. Like there's not like straight lines or anything. I'm wondering if we're going to pick up on a theme. Perhaps not, but that's a really cool artistic element as well to leave it. I don't know, feeling more grounded, right? Straight paneling and everything may have ruined that aesthetic a little bit. Nice usage of wide landscapes as well. Third eye, really cool, into their own spiritual stuff, inner
Yeah,
self, things like that. Really cool character design. I love all that.
yeah. And I think you said the word perfectly. It's organic, right? It makes it feel alive and whole.
Yeah, precisely. Cool little callback to the spiders right here. This trooper enslaving all these rebels, stepping on, destroying our metaphor that we set up earlier on. So, really interesting callback.
Yeah.
Another dream sequence here, right? So we went back to mother was on the run in the past. She went into labor in that little cove, right? That we saw before, or whatever this little hut is like a piece of organic, whatever, tree trunks and whatnot, giving birth to both of these kids. Little Bird is an outsider. She's kind of reliving a memory that her mom had, not able to interact with it, but she sees presumably a young bishop on the run, trying to track down this mother. Mother's running through the forest with her two newborns, so that's insane in itself. Ends up tripping, drops one of them. Bishop recovers one of them. So we're setting up the stage right now that we had twins. One of them stayed with mom. One of them got taken by the bishop pretty early on and indoctrinated pretty quickly. And then
Hmm.
here's her falling through that memory again, being reborn again in this like healing chamber after she's been captured. This is a crazy, crazy scene right here. It gives us a lot of context. What do you think about this?
Oh, dude, like it's almost like tread more levels of imagery and
Oh yeah,
world bending, like
especially like all
viewpoints on it.
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and well, on this page in particular as well,
Hmm.
like it
Oh yeah,
evokes
for
like
sure.
big feelings of like we're dealing with immortality, right? And we've already talked about like Logan Wolverine, the character.
Yeah,
This gives me big Barry Windsor Smith vibes, specifically from that Weapon X storyline. You could
yeah,
tell like the color palette that they use, the wiring that's all coming off of the character.
yeah,
Um, yeah, just really effective use of gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Inspiration.
yeah, yeah. I love impossible technology. You know,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Peter Laird did a great job on the Turtles. You mentioned more. I mean, just like impossible stuff. We see it with Mobius. We see it with Darrow and whatnot. Like people who take their time and they put circuitry. They put all these impossible things, just really showcasing like the technology at use. But there's also this element of like crudeness to it too. We see like this bloody towel, right? Just like suspended on this weird whatever this is. Like there's always that juxtaposition between like impossible futuristic technology, super advanced stuff. They can do whatever they can do, but there's also this like really crude element to it too that is always in all those examples that we've seen. And it's almost like showcasing it too, right? Like look at this
Oh
look
yeah.
at this yellow this circle. So it's like really really cool.
Well,
Love
it's
it.
almost like they're calling out like the advancements in technology are fantastic, right? And they could do so many more things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they can do things precisely, right? Like they have a lot
Yeah.
of capability, but it's more of a mundane way that they need to go about it, or a in a I'm trying to think of the word again here.
Yeah. Or they're more rotten to it's still a culture thing. It's still they're still rotten to the core. There's
Yes,
something going
yeah,
on. There's something whenever the human has an element to control, it's always a mess.
hmm
The technology is always pristine. What we can control is always a mess. Really cool stuff. I just love how much you can draw from this book. It's just such a great book. No antiseptic, just going right in, man. We're going back to sleep.
Yeah.
So again, talks to the crudeness of this world right here. This character is kind of elusive to me. Like it's actually some kind of a higher position person within this world, consultant of the bishop. Maybe she has some kind of power or something like that. But they're having an interesting conversation right here. I think this is the conversation where they're starting to realize, like, hey, whatever plans we have with this like regenerative capability, we can't keep it. We don't. First off, we don't even have it technically. We got to keep practicing and developing this like serum to heal people, specifically Gabriel, and keep ourselves alive in the process. But we also need to do something to the public to win them back over because they're waning. And so, like, when I turn the page over here, you're going to see the public now compared to how we saw them in the beginning. Everything is raining. It's even darker. Lots of smoke. We have We have like crosses being built, things like that. And there's something building right now. And the father or Gabriel, the bishop rather, is basically saying like, their faith is not so easily shaken. She's got a lot of doubts. She's like, hey, things are going down. He has that weird side eye again. You underestimate the strength of these good people. They're not easily shaken. He goes up to do it his normal thing, right? To do his preaching. And why have they forsaken us? They've taken my son. Lord, hear us, false prophet. And then he has this realization, like, oh crap, whatever plans we have, we need to accelerate. Really crazy scene right here. What do you think about
Yeah.
this?
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me is that we talked about in the earlier issues the use of the color palette, the cool colors being
Mm-hmm.
the Vatican, the warm colors being the rebellion. In this, we're kind of introduced to a third color palette, which is honestly the lack of color whatsoever. The
Yeah.
people that followed the Vatican, you could tell have just been drained of all hope, drained of all color. Really effective use there.
Yep.
But you're right. Yeah, seeing that the bishop can see that they need to accelerate those plans and how it's told there, really great, really effective way to go about that. And I love how during the conversations you can tell, like they even amongst themselves they tiptoe around these notions. Like, we're not doing this for the betterment of the people. We're doing this
Right.
for the betterment of ourselves. But how are we going to sell that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, curing Gabriel is one thing, Reverend Mother, but we can contain that. But sharing the antidote with the public seems an impossible task. And so she's thinking, like, we got to do something. We have to produce a miracle. One thing we didn't talk about, like, she's obviously not suffering here. You know what I mean? She's hooked up to whatever this is, this life giving, eternal life giving thing, this rejuvenation, whatever. She's a little bit bigger person. You know what I mean? Like she's enjoying the riches of her position, is
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
saying, right? She's not ill, anything like that. And then you turn the page, and everyone here not only has their boils like they did before, but now they're all pissed. They're all yelling, and they're developing their crosses, and they're going crazy. So
yeah,
really cool scene here. We learned that Little Bird has actually been experimented on for months. She's in this like chamber right here. They're kind of getting her back into her cell, and she takes this opportunity here to actually escape. And so this is her escaping right now. And she actually comes across Gabriel. Gabriel's not exactly hiding. She escapes his prison. How did you find me? You were standing in front of a giant window. And this is a moment where Gabriel kind of like admits to her some of the dreams that he's had, things like that. And really cool conversation between the two of them. Like, take me to my mother. I know she was here, all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'll take you to your mom. I can definitely do that. I know where she is now that I've learned the truth and I've learned all this stuff. And they've acknowledged that they're sisters, their brother and sister as well. So a lot going on this page right here, leading to another pretty tragic moment over here.
yeah. Well, I love that this is Gabriel's fork in the road moment as well, because it can
Yeah,
really go one of two ways. And if you read this in one way, it could come off very menacing as opposed to very helpful.
yeah, for sure. I was trying to go back and see. Obviously, he's got some kind of IV thing going on right now. I think that might be the first time we've seen that, and it's coming off of the heels of the fact that Little Bird's been captive for so long, and she's in a very similar pod as well. So who knows if that's similar technology? But he's obviously getting some additional treatments.
Yeah.
Since Little Bird has been captive, so really cool. Gabriel takes her down into the crypts where we were earlier, where he basically had to pledge his allegiance, that rite of passage we talked about before, incinerating the mother in a way. And this is that moment again where Gabriel starts to turn. This is that fork in the road, right? And
Hmm.
so, cool little scene between Little Bird, who's still healing, obviously been captive for some time. Bishop's really upset right now. He's got the the faith of the people waning on him and everything. And really cool foreshadowing moment here with Gabriel looking at this knife. And we're gonna get more into that as we go.
Yeah, and look at how they take just a beat there to not just say like, oh, it could have just read on the script, little bird breaks Bishop's arm, but no, they take a beat to show how she wraps around it and then snaps it off. Like they make you kind of live in that moment for just a
Yeah.
second longer.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, exactly. Throwing her up against the wall like that, and what does she do? Wraps that around and snap, right?
Yep.
And holy hell, I love that
Yeah, exactly.
part right here. And not only, I mean, they almost create like a divide right here, right? So we get this reaction to that, but we also see this foreshadowing here, kind of play out at this moment here. Now he's armed, so he's turning and he's armed at this point. So
Hmm.
we'll see what that amounts to later on. Little Bird on the escape. She, does the impossible again, vaults those walls. Now she starts mixing in with the crowd a little bit here. Little bit of a confusing moment for me personally because the crowd was supposed to be kind of turning on them, on Bishop and whatnot. They end up capturing Little Bird, but maybe it's showcasing how brainwashed they really are. That when they see this opportunity to capture Little Bird again, make her part of the flock, maybe they'll take advantage of that. But one thing that obviously stands out for me is just this right here, and I have to unpack this a little bit more myself. But it's thousands of crucifixions coming together to form crosses over here. To what end? What prompted this? I'm not entirely sure at this moment. Maybe it's their own convictions, like things aren't going our way. We haven't made the proper sacrifices yet, so we have to take things a step further. And maybe this is like a self-inflicted crucifixion plot right here, but I'm not entirely sure. Do you have any thoughts about this whole section right here, what this could mean and how we got to this point?
Well, and that is how I took it. I mean, it was a level of well, a couple different things. The level of devotion that they have towards their religion and towards the Vatican, but also the level of destitute that they're at, where this is the reality, like where they understand, like, hey, if we're really going to follow this path, and if we're really going to agree to this ideology, then this is the reality that we're going to have to work with and live with
Yeah,
and die with, right?
some sacrifices needed, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, very powerful imagery. Yeah,
Yes.
that's I mean, yeah, it is really really well done. Little Bird is captured over here, back into the bishop's control. He's mended. He's got tons and tons of pins, just exaggerating the healing process and maybe the technology used. Obviously, this is a moment where Gabriel thinks he can take the upper hand right here. He can end this at this moment, and Bishop's all about it. Like you're right. He can see you've fallen. Go ahead, then. If you hate me that much, I won't stop you. And then you know he doesn't want to turn into that. He doesn't want to be that person. Little Bird is that person. Little Bird is the person that will take that extra step and go the extra mile and do what's needed. Gabriel hasn't gotten to that point yet. That was my
Yeah.
main takeaway over in the scene.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the build up, right? We see the knife
Oh
on the
yeah,
ground. We see the knife in his hand. We see the knife close to the bishop's face in the same panel. It's the knife
yeah,
and the face, and
yep.
then it drops.
So cool. Yeah, I love that. We get a little backstory on Gabriel, very very short. How he was sick and he was beaten when he would underperform, things like that. He used to draw pictures of what his real mother would look like. He would burn them at the end of the day because he had this, I don't know, better way to describe it is like like that traditional Catholic guilt, right? You're taught a certain way. Sometimes you have these oppressive thoughts towards those teachings, and you have to find a way to suppress that. So he was kind of engaging in both of those worlds in a way, and he admits all this when he finds Little Bird, who's back up in captivity right now.
Yeah.
So really, really cool imagery, and yeah, I love that part.
And again, the echo to, him burning the pictures of his mother and the glow of the embers of the fire in his
Hmm.
eyes, evoking the thoughts of him burning his actual mother and the same thing, the fire reflecting in his eyes.
Yeah, yep, and like burning, I don't know, all hope, all desire. I don't know what it is. It means a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Burning your past, embracing the teachings that are being thrown on you, things like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
really cool moment. There's a setup right here, and there's a guard that plays along. Um, I need to figure out who this guard might be. Maybe it's irrelevant, but there's a moment in here where they embrace. I'm sorry, I love you, little bird. Things like that. Like this is my past. I understand your past now. I understand the things I've done. I have a plan and we're executing it in these other pages over here, which I think is really, really cool. But you don't really know what's going on. You know, there's a head shaving moment, and that's all you get to see. Next panel, though, we have this ritual sacrifice in a way. We have the execution of Little Bird, Bishop, the guards. We have Bishop's advisor, whoever that might be here. We have the crowd, right? This is the moment that we've been building to this entire time. This is the necessary sacrifice that the bishop has been preaching to his masses that is needed before prosperity is met in this culture. This is the lengths we have to go through, which is probably why they were complicit in this whole scene over here, right? Like, we know you have Little Bird. If we have to make the sacrifice, that will save everybody. You know, so it's this last like grand gesture, so to speak.
Hmm.
This is the moment we've been building up to kind of rid the evil in the world, so to speak. Really great part right here.
Oh
Of course,
man, yeah,
yeah, very Adam Hughes-ish. I love that.
yeah.
I think about that every time I look at this, using that fire to kind of create that imagery. I love that.
Well, and the stippling and the line work on there too. How there's like, it's not that there is a solid line outline in the character, but it is really
Mhm.
just the evoking of a line, right? The implication of a line behind the fire that's burning our character.
Yep, exactly. I love this, and of course we get that smoke that we do our progressive zoom in on. Really, really done well. There's actually a little bit of a jump here. The implication, I would believe, is that the bishop thinks the deed is done. Little Bird has been executed. We're going to be prospering from now on. Um, the implication here is that maybe it was not Little Bird. We have we're going to unpack that a little bit more later on, but we have a flash forward now, 6 months later. Really cool shot of Sarge.
Yeah,
I love this, crawling out of the desert, wandering the desert, and finding that capsule, right? Finding that groundhog, that payload that they were initially going to use to blow open the doors so the rebellion could get into that castle and take them out. Love this page right here. What do you think?
yeah. Dude, it's fantastic. And actually, now that you say that, I'm not well versed enough in Catholic and Christian religions, but when you said like he's walking through the desert, I wonder if there is a religious allegory to the character of Sarge that maybe I'm not picking up on, seeing that he is again, yeah, he survived and he's walking through the desert now. So I don't know, interesting way
Yeah,
that to look at that.
yeah, undoubtedly, undoubtedly, there's going to be some parallels there. Darcy's well versed, I would think, at least in the skeptical side of this, and so in order to be skeptic, you have to be knowledgeable to a degree, right? So
Yes, exactly.
I think he's pulling out a lot of symbolism for sure. But this is the like kind of like the redemption arc for Sarge. So we have this really dramatic cliffhanger moment with the presumed execution of Little Bird. We have we have the resurrection, so to speak, of Sarge here, and then this is our uh, practically suffocating
Yeah.
cover right here for the final issue, I believe, for the run.
Yeah,
Really
and
cool
I love
moment.
how each cover is a different character within the book that's, being swallowed by this. And generally speaking, it's been heroic characters. And now we see the bishop's arm being kind of like, enveloped in all of the things that, what we presume is, him.
Yep. We have the reuniting of Sarge with the rebellion over here, trying to push forward with the original mission, trying to burrow their way towards the Vatican. This is the Vatican right here, the bishop. 6 months later, realizing that the sacrifice they made was not really Little Bird, but actually Gabriel himself. And this is like a monument to that sorrow right here. He's breaking down, losing all faith. We've been abandoned. Do you know how that feels? And of course, his advisor, whoever this might be, you know, we need more time, right? Let's stop losing your faith. And she's looking down on him now. He's a broken man. He's really kind of falling apart at this moment. She's using that anger as like a final get every single force, every single unit, soldier, machine, bomb, whatever it is, and we got to make this final assault. Whatever you have planned, double it and do it now, kind of thing. Really,
Hmm.
really cool moment right here. Awesome ships, really cool technology as well. Love this moment of determination as well, and she's really kind of pep talking him up,
Yeah,
get
exactly.
reorienting him.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can see that he's kind of taking those emotions and dialing them all into anger and, and purpose, right?
yep. Yeah, absolutely love that. Sandstorm going over the facility that we've seen in the past before. First time we've seen that. Um, Maybe showcasing that it's getting close to where Sarge is with that machine. They're burrowing and they're relatively in the same area. Love all that. This is that, increase your production of soldiers whole routine right here. Get people in the air right now. Sarge is close. He's in this payload. He's in this burrowing device, and the paneling gets sketchier and sketchier and sketchier and more chaotic until Sarge, performs the ultimate sacrifice kamikaze style mission and actually leads the way for the rebellion to attack. Love that scene.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Such a way to go out. And I love how he just like puts it all out there too. Like he isn't going quietly into the night.
Yeah, yep, exactly. You tell him that the coward Sergeant Max Weaver did this. You make sure to tell them I made it right. So, we're unpacking it now in Precious Metal. What I made it right is like, what was that wrong that he did in the past?
Yeah.
Really, really cool. Rebellion together again. This is our Crusader that turned. We got Little Bird. There's that watch again. Very,
Hmm.
very keeps popping up. But Rebel forces are engaged right now. Sarge led the way, and now we're able to have this like full on attack. In this, this part of the Vatican that is actually indoctrinating a bunch of younger kids as well. Darcy's talked about this, how indigenous people were often, taken from their homelands and, sent to re-education schools to try to assimilate them, trying to kill that legacy, with the young kids. And they would basically slaughter everybody else, essentially, trying to brainwash the youth. Obvious
Hmm.
depiction of it here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's it's one of the common things that we hear about and know about all the time with missionaries going to places where they aren't introduced to even the notion of religion, right? And introducing that and kind of changing the whole structure of different subsets of people.
Yep. Amazing battles happen from here. Little Bird infiltrating. We got the rebels. Again, that split. We get to tell the same story that's happening at the same time from two different perspectives. Love that. Love this gesture right here. We always have this, this other uh, person of the church who's actually, preaching down to the kids, saying like, "Why are you just standing there?" And we get this awesome reveal with Little Bird there, having taken them out, and all the young kids looking up, like, "Oh my God, look at her!" Like this, there's another way, almost, right? Like they've never seen something like this. This is the most excitement they've ever had in this
Mhm.
environment,
Yeah.
and I love all that. So cool. Really
Oh,
cool scene. Yeah,
this is
go ahead.
heartbreaking. Yeah, I know. Just
Oh,
seeing the end of this character who we've kind of lived with for a little bit. Not our main character, but one that we've kind of grown to care about, and seeing how things end up there, it's just so brutal.
it's the Crusader, the end of our Crusader character, which I think this would be a great third story. If I had to put money on it, that's where I would go with this. Crusader doing what she can do. Bishop ultimately taking her out very cold heartedly. They're marching in right now too to help save the day, provide additional reinforcements. Yeah, really, really dramatic moment. This is one of those like Red Room moments, right? Where you just don't want to see those Walking Dead moments, whatever it is, where you get attached to a character and then all of a sudden they're taken away in like 3 panels. Really,
Exactly. Yeah.
really
The
heartbreaking.
heartlessness too. Like, I mean, doesn't even look
Yeah.
at the person.
Nope. Stabs her in the back and then
Yeah.
just keeps walking, right? Flicks the blood off, joins the ranks and keeps going. Not even a second thought. Still blood dripping from that kill
Yeah.
right there. You murdered my only son, not unknowingly, he's in denial probably of the whole situation, of course, but completely blames Little Bird. We're going to get this epic battle between Little Bird and the Bishop right here, which is a long time coming. The last time these two fought, it was a pretty short battle and Little Bird was killed instantly practically.
Hmm.
And really epic battle. What'd you think about this?
Oh, it's fantastic, and I think it shows the growth might be not by the right word here, but it shows the growth of our main character, right? As she's kind of had been put in this peril multiple times now. The outcome was much different previously, but like she's focused, she's ready to rock and roll in this, and I love the way that they lay it all out here. And maybe it also plays into the Bishop character as well. Like maybe he is unfocused and too caring about like putting her out of her misery and like really kind of punishing her for what's happened to Gabriel.
Yeah. Well, he's lost everything, right? He's lost his
Hmm.
conviction. He's lost his only son. He lost his path forward. He's obviously aged maybe in here
Hmm.
too. Maybe they've lost some of that ability to regenerate. He's not in a good way. He's solely bent on revenge instead of like the faithful mission that he was on previously.
Yeah,
You know,
and
so
in a
maybe
way, she. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no go.
I was gonna say, in a way, she is almost kind of proven to him that he is not the godlike figure that he has made
Yeah,
himself out to be. With Gabriel being his, his one son, the Jesus character of our story, with him being killed, it's kind of shown that he's not what he thinks he was.
yeah, yeah. A lot of cool things going on here. I love how Little Bird is now more matured as well. She's really honing in on her skills. She's been here and done that with this character before, and like we said before, he's lost his way. You know,
Yeah,
that doesn't stop him from getting the upper hand, though, in some of these scenes here. She actually cuts his arm off over here, but he ends up kind of incapacitating her. Here's that damn watch again, you know, playing its role right here. And we're going to see. And, what I like about this is it's almost full circle. This was the Axe's watch. He executed the axe, him and his guards executed the axe. And, a little bit of that momentum or memento helped her save the day right here as he's essentially executing her again with that fire. We have to cleanse the world, right? Burn all the sinners out.
yeah,
And so really, really cool moment. We have somebody over here who we don't quite know. It's off panel at the moment. Engage this ship that Sarge showed us initially. And it has this magnetic quality to it where basically it sucks everything in. It acts like a black hole in a way. This device gets activated. We later find out that it's the Crusader that was stabbed in the back. And this is like her last hurrah, right? This is the last thing I can do to help save the day. And I'm going to pull everything towards me and I'm going to blow everything up. That's how I'm going to end this war. And of course, our bishop gets caught up into this. And there's that shard of glass from that watch
yep.
put being put to good use right there.
Yeah, I love how as you learn throughout the story, that watch really kind of becomes the ultimate heirloom through a family.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I love the brutality of this. Little Bird's hand. Not only is she holding this piece of shrapnel, but all of her fingers are just completely bent. You know what I mean? Like the brutality in this book is incredible.
Yeah,
Really,
no,
really
they
good.
never hold back.
No. Even when the bishop is trying to hold ground, right? When he's being sucked away, you see this
Hmm.
nail drag that is
Oh,
really something else.
yeah,
And there was another panel too that really showcased that as well. Maybe it's in another section. There was a moment where it has a close up on that nail drag that's really, really cool. But, anyways, real interesting. So, everyone gets sucked in and explodes essentially. Um, here's our big boom, and then here's our slow resolution panel right here. Everyone that was inside, basically at school, learns to rebel at this moment. There is another way. Um, it's just us. What do we do? And this character says everything. We do everything. So the world's their oyster, right? They could do whatever they want. They don't have to. They don't have to live in this regime anymore. And then here's them banding together to pull down, the oppressive nature, right? So
yeah.
really, really cool moment.
Yeah, and I love how that kind of dissolves. Society has learned the lesson to be told here, and it kind of dissolves into Little Bird, our character, learning the final lesson in her story as well.
Yep. This section right here, I still have a little bit of I still have to unpack what a lot of this means right here. Little Bird died again, right? And so now she's going back in another flashback. That's my takeaway for this part right here. We have the axe again. We have a home that's on fire. Taintu was the mother's name. She's screaming about her baby. She actually enters this house where the baby is crying. Axe is saying no, leave her alone. Um, this could be Little Bird. I'm not entirely sure, but we can kind of discuss this if you have any additional thoughts. She gets stuck though, so she actually gets burned alive in there, and she hands the baby over. And the bishop actually gets hold of this kid, and says basically, your wife begged as well, Axe, and that didn't get her very far. And he's begging the bishop to, not take the child, to spare him, to spare his family and whatnot. And again, one must wonder what kind of world we're living in when a baby is so easily abandoned. And he thinks it's his nature, his reason, his purpose to take these children away from these people and to assimilate them. So another tragic story here. What are your thoughts about this page? What do you think's going on over here?
Well, it's a nice way to recontextualize, why the axe was in the place that he was, because you can see it's a man that's been torn down, that's had everything taken away from him. Now, my
Yeah,
interpretation, though, is that this was Little Bird's mother being born. right? And then that's how she was introduced to the bishop. Now, maybe I'm
Mm,
incorrect on this, but that was my interpretation of it, and that's
yeah.
how that connection is made, and that's how the bishop. It looks like they had an inkling to it, and the axe knew that they knew that, and that they would be used for dastardly purposes, and that's why he tried everything to make sure that they were never found by them, but failed ultimately in the end.
Yeah, that could be true. Little Bird calls him grandfather in the scene right here. He says, "I won't let them, not again." So this tells me that this has happened once before. So
Hmm.
maybe, yeah, so you could take away that. Um, she screams the name of Little Bird's mom, my
Yeah,
baby. So yeah, this is probably her grandmother, grandfather. Mom is the child in the house. That's how she gets into the bishop's hands.
yeah.
That completely makes sense. Yeah. She gets raised up in this world. She rebels eventually when she finds the truth about her grandfather, about her father, Little Bird's grandfather. She escapes. Maybe Gabriel had relations or whatever in the meantime. Yeah, yeah. So that all aligns. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad we unpacked that. That was good.
And you could just tell it's a man broken right there. He's had
Oh
his
yeah,
love taken away. He's had his child taken away, his home, his livelihood, just everything. He's just battered and
yeah,
broken.
yep. And this is where he finally gets enchained, and he's probably
Yep.
in there for like 30 years or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, crazy end of the story there. And then of course we have our rebirth, right? Of Little Bird, a little more uh, quick, right here, but we've already
Hey, she's getting better at it though.
we're getting better at it. We're getting faster at it. She thinks she saved the world. She took out the oppressive forces, right? And she's going back to her home. Everything's destroyed. Things are being grown over. Hope still exists. Things like that. And she's rebuilding at this point. She's rebuilding this town, at least her hut and whatever. And she's trying to move on. She's trying to live in that future world that they were all fighting for. And we get some recaps as well. Here's the axe right here, showcasing it's getting buried. There's a moment of time passing, right? We have
Hmm.
our flock right here, potentially some new characters or whatever. Gabriel's burial ground, a statue to Little Bird's mom, potentially, or Little Bird herself.
Yeah.
Right here. Some are here and never forget. So yeah, this is rebellion kind of flourishing right now, and we get a pretty cool moment over here. But this whole section right here about rebuilding, burying the past, things like that. I like this whole scene. This is a really good moment to show a passage of time and where we're going next. A great sunrise sunset, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love that she goes back to the town here, and a theme of the book, all encompassing has been fire, right? And their town was burned down, but now it's being built back up after all has been
Yeah,
said and done. It's kind of like, we've seen like the destructive property, and now we kind of see the resurrective property of fire.
exactly. She's using all the elements, the old buildings, trees, and whatnot, and she's building it from scratch.
Hmm.
Really cool moment. Some time passes. I don't think they tell us exactly how much time has passed, but she's just living in her hut. And I'm trying to think. There's other stories that this has like happened in, right? Where whatever the oppressive force, they come back. Both of them have aged. She's expecting the bishop, right? The bishop has come back. Whatever happened to him, he was able to survive. And this is him trying to fulfill that destiny that he thought he had initially. And you know, he's well past. I'm gonna capture you and utilize your power or whatever. He soaked it in for long enough to survive whatever it is he survived, and he's here to finish out the mission right here. And Little Bird, he's basically saying all you want is all you want is to live forever. You know what I mean? Like you were never on a righteous path or anything like that. And that motive or whatever, that admittance to that really kind of turns on him over here when these other guards come over to take him out. I love this scene right here. What'd you think?
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it shows that if our bishop character weren't obsessed before, he absolutely is. He's in the throes of the obsession with not just what they were trying to strive for, which was the immortality previously, but just Little Bird herself, like right, just
Mm-hmm.
like just making it all of what's happened purposeful by killing her.
Yeah. Even admitting here, I use the resurrection gene as God intended to bring me closer to Him, so I can deliver the message to the world. So maybe not so righteous. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? and
exactly.
and that's good. Little Bird telling this epic tale, meta commentary perhaps about this entire tale with this book and precious metal and a third book to be created. Maybe putting an end cap to that story right here. Bishop being overwhelmed by the guards. over here. This is an interesting thing. Perhaps she and the guards were on the search with Bishop when they found Little Bird, and they're all kind of just hanging out. But Little Bird basically created a Trojan horse. I know that people are out there that are going to try to get me. I'm telling my epic tale. When they come, I'm going to be ready for them, and we get to see that play out right here. Love this whole
Yeah.
ending right here.
Oh, and it's great too. And I love how it plays out as not only the ending of our story, but the beginning of a potential new story, right? This is where things really begin.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's kind of up for interpretation as well. So she's looking down at a job well done, right? She has that crater, very reminiscent of the early pages when she came out of the ground and saw the devastation to her kind. Cool little close-up shot of her. She's matured. She's even got there's this other mod right here, a very Sarge like thing going on that she's embracing. And it doesn't end here, not like this. So, she's almost like there's some religious iconography going on, obviously, right here, right? We have a halo type effect. We have somebody with a staff. We have the bird. We have the all seeing eye. We have a tree. We have this embracing nature in a way, or whatever it might be. And I just love that final page right there.
Oh, it's so great. Yeah, too. And, the namesake of the book, our main character, Little Bird, and the owl, which is a symbol of wisdom and the path that she's gone on to. Again,
Mm-hmm.
really great visual storytelling without, saying it really showing you.
Yeah, so cool. Changing the eyes as well. We lost our iris and everything. So yeah, really interesting evolution of the character for
Yeah.
sure. And that is Little Bird. This copy right here, the hardcover, has a lot of cool variant covers as well from a variety of different artists. Did a really good job of putting this together, representing some of the scenes we saw earlier in the issue, some of the black and whites and whatnot, and some of the early sketches as well. So even going over the evolution of the trade dress as well, how it was going to be more, I don't know, root like, had a little electricity almost to it, but they ended up simplifying it to the final design you see right here on the cover, making it more simplistic, and I think it was really effective. I loved it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, much easier to read with the final version that they
Yeah,
went with. Yeah.
that's true. Some sample script pages and whatnot, but yeah, some of the layouts and designs and everything. So this is a really good addition if you're interested in the story, talking about the colors and the collaboration, and how that evolved into the letters, and some of the evolution of the sketches into the final product as well. But man, Little Bird, what a tale, dude! What a tale. Any closing thoughts on this story in general, man? What do you think?
Oh, man, it's just, it's a classic type story that really tells a lot of things that I haven't really gotten in modern comic books recently. So I think it's a worthwhile story. It's a worthwhile tale to go on. And God, it's one of the most fantastic books that I've read in God the last 10 years at least.
Yeah,
It's just so thoughtful and well put together from every aspect. Again, like the whole creative team working in conjunction with one another, trusting each other. It
yep.
just put out this final product that it's a world I want to continue to live in, which perfect timing. We are doing so in Precious Metal.
The character of Sarge admits to the axe that he's in the precious metal business. We have our precious metal series going on right now, providing more context, more characters, more connective tissue to the overall world. Brilliant first two issues so far. Cannot wait to get the companion hardcover piece to this, or potentially a whole collected edition between all the different stories. But if you're not reading Precious Metal, make sure to check that out. Little Bird will enhance that universe for sure, giving you some context about what the end game is. This is a prequel done right. We're two issues in, but this is what a prequel should be. So the word prequel is kind of thrown around right now. It's kind of a bad word in storytelling. This is how you do it the correct way. So make sure you're checking out Precious Metal as well as Little Bird. But man, Eric, thank you so much for joining me, man. That was a great time, dude. I really appreciate it.
Dude, my pleasure. Absolutely. Yeah, I will always take the time to talk about an excellent book such as this.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.